What was your take on Rory Pyke?
Yeah, look, as has been reported, we were a bit disappointed and a bit frustrated by the process, if you like, and the way the finding came out. But the reality was, at the end of it, after what was a pretty thorough consideration of challenging, we decided that it wasn't worth the risk, and based on what we understood with the charge and how it looked and the impact, we accepted the ban.
Big test for midfield now coming up.
Yeah, look, and we've once we did that, and Rory's a bit frustrated himself, and now that gives an opportunity for someone else.
Does it look like Cam Ellis-Yolmen, he played so well when he came in? Is he front of the line? Yeah, he's in the front line. Obviously, we'll finalise the team at 5:30 today, so I don't want to let too much out of the bag. But he's in line for one of the spots. Yeah. What have you seen or not seen from Brodie Smith this week for him to get a game? Yeah, well, Brodie's gone through. He's pretty quiet early in the week. We started getting out running him today, and yeah, we'll wait and see what we do with that.
How was he, health-wise?
Yeah, he was pretty good. He was pretty good, to be honest. It's he obviously missing the game. The rest of the game, he wasn't. He was probably a bit sluggish on the Saturday and the Monday. But he's been improving as the week's gone on, which is great.
Do you like his chances?
Wait and see.
Earlier in the year, when you first got here, you always maintained that it was about the structure and the process rather than the personnel. Yeah. Do you feel like, with arguably, if Brodie doesn't come up, your two biggest players out, this is the biggest test of that mantra?
Oh, I think it's always a test. Every week it's a test. And it's the same with it's not only the guys who play, it's the roles they play within our side. And we've always pushed really strongly that we're not going to ride the coattails of one or two players. That's not how we operate. And you see that with our forwards. Our forwards, consistently share the goals amongst themselves. So, yeah, look, depending on how we finalise the team, opportunities will exist for other guys, and the beauty is that we've got guys who are in really good form and guys who've got confidence they can A, play at the level, B, play their role, and we've got belief and trust in them coming in.
When you say on their form, like say Cam Ellis-Yolmen plays against Brisbane, you win by 130 odd points, guys in the SANFL as well, do you feel like you get an accurate read on their form given they're stepping up into a higher level? Yeah, you get a guide on their form in terms of how we want them to play at SANFL level. So a number of those guys have continued to build on their seasons, which has been a real positive for us, because we get comfortable that they're playing the way we want them to play. Clearly there's a step up from SANFL into the AFL, but we're really confident some of those guys have had experience doing it, others haven't. They're playing the sort of footy we want them to be playing at the SANFL level.
Depending on the result this week, there's a lot of outcomes for you guys. Are you gunning for top spot?
We're gunning for 4 points tomorrow night. That's really what we're after. Everything else will look after itself from there. But from our viewpoint, again, we control what we can control, and what we can control is how we perform tomorrow night against West Coast in what's going to be a big game. Both clubs have got a fair bit to play for. We're getting towards that point end of the season where not only wins and losses, but how you play and how you perform is going to give you the confidence going into the next phase. So important we play well tomorrow night.
Don, you were able to hold West Coast scoreless for the final quarter last time you played. How are you able to do that, and how do you think you can replicate that?
Well, if you look at the numbers from the last time we played them, we were able to get the ball played in our half, and then able to keep that ball in that front half, which was important. And we're really strong around the contest. Primarily we won a lot of ball around the contest, both stoppage and aerial contests, and that gave us the ability to move the ball forward and get pressure on West Coast. So, the fundamentals of the game don't really change. The reality is we've got to make sure we bring those consistently tomorrow night.
And not concerned about the fact that you were down on clearance in contested possessions against Port last week?
No, not really. I mean, that's a bit of a one-off. You're going to get ebbs and flows throughout a season. We've been really strong in our contested ball and our clearance work, pretty much most of the season, certainly since the bye. And look, it was a great test last week. That was the challenge we knew we were facing last week against Port in the showdown, and they brought some real pressure, and to our guys' credit, we found a way in the end. But it was a good reminder of what really is required to play hard sort of finals type footy. So I look forward to what we can bring in that space tomorrow night.
How much have the Eagles improved since last time you played more, even in recent weeks?
Yeah, well, look, their recent form's fantastic. They've beaten GWS 2 weeks ago and Hawthorn last week, who are both sitting in the top four. So, their form's good. They've lost one game since we last played them. So, everyone's sort of saying, "Oh, West Coast is sleeping." No, I think they're a really strong footy team, and they've got some quality players. and they'll be coming here with the same intent that we have. So it sets up for a really good clash.
How are you expecting their style of game to change without Nick Nat?
Well, they're going to obviously have to adjust around without Nick, and I guess has been flagged. They've got a few options there. We'll wait to see which one they go with. It's probably difficult to second guess what they're going to do. And Nick's been a great player for them, but you've got Scotty Lycett, you've got Giles, you've got Mitch Brown. I think they're putting into the mix as well. So we'll see what they come up with. But for us, it'll be still primarily focused on what we've got with our midfield group and Sauce and JJ. So.
Has Sauce trained all this week?
Yeah.
Some speculation that he's able to play.
Nah, he's been fine. He's pulled up really well. He's been able to train on and hasn't missed a session, and he's ready to go.
Has it been hard to plan, not knowing that West Coast or what they're doing with their ruck setup?
No, not really. I don't think they're going to fundamentally change their structure around the ball. Obviously, they're going to have some personnel changes, but I think the fact that they've done it recently when Nick was out for a long period of time suggests that they'll probably use one of those sort of options they've used, and we'll see what they bring tomorrow night.
So did you go back and have a good look at what they had done in those previous weeks?
Yeah, we had a look through who they used and in what roles they've used them and how they structured the team up around that. Now, which way they choose to go will be up to them. But for us, we just plan to for a couple of different alternatives, but more about how we're going to go about and what we're going to bring to the game.
Considering what's on the line, a top 2 spot, do you treat it like it's a finals match?
Not so much like not really like a finals match, but it's an important game. We recognise the significance of the game tomorrow night. The players certainly are aware of what we're playing for. So in essence, it probably starts that process a week earlier. But there's a prize on the line tomorrow night, and it's one that we're at home. It's a great that we're having it at home. Our last game. It's member appreciation round for us. I think we've got, Shuts was telling me earlier, I think we've got almost the #1 attendances of any sporting club in Australia. So look forward to getting a full house there tomorrow night, and rewarding them for what they've been able to bring to our team this year in terms of their support, but also play some really good, strong footy in front of them.
How's Paul Seedman travelling? Is he back in the mix for tomorrow night?
No, Seeds is still a little bit behind, so he'll be another week away. Unfortunately, that the corky got sort of led to a couple of complications, which we haven't been able to get him up and going. So he's got some more training over the weekend. But just speaking to him a minute ago, he's been able to now get up running and so forth. So we'd expect he'd be available the week after.
Touched on the importance. The players are obviously aware of the result and the outcome. Footy's a high pressure industry anyway. Is there any added pressure on where you need to finish, given the stats of where clubs make the grand final based on their ladder position? No,
I don't think. I think if we get sort of caught looking over the horizon, it's really dangerous for us. We've got a process to follow. We think the way we play has proven over the year that if we play to that standard, we're capable of competing really strongly with anyone in the comp. And I think if we start looking ahead too far or looking into what might be, it's really risky. We understand the significance of the game tomorrow night. The players understand that. We understand what we're playing for, but the most important thing is we play the way we've played, and we bring the level of energy, positivity to the game, and really that builds that belief in how we can then go about getting a result. But the result will be a byproduct of how we go about it, A, with our process, and B, with our effort.
So it's easy to sort of eliminate that as a distraction then, the carrot?
Yeah. I think they know that. I don't need me to talk about that. They understand clearly where we're situated, and they've, in fairness to them, they've created the opportunity through the work they've done, the hard work they've done. So they're a really diligent group, a really aware group, engaged group, and they understand the opportunity they've created, and that's in a lot of ways really exciting. So we don't see that as a pressure thing. We see it as a great opportunity to tackle.
Don, we've seen some tough list management decisions made this week by some other clubs. Do you expect that Scott Thompson will be running around next year?
Well, we've been in regular contact with Scott just regarding his position, and those discussions are ongoing. I'm not going to go into the detail here in terms of where Scott's at, but we'll address that at the appropriate time.
We've also got Jared Lyons off contract. Any sort of discussions with Jared about him staying next year? Yeah,
we've been, again, continuing discussions with Jared, and he's had a really fantastic year, which has been great. He had a history of being the sub last year, and he's played a number of games where he's been in and out, and he's been now able to string together nearly 15 games, I think, in a row, and played some really good, solid footy. So really pleasing for Jared. He did a lot of work in the off-season, built the belief about him, and he's found himself a role, and he's played his role really well. So, we're in discussions with him about what we do next year.
The other one, I think, is goes an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
He hasn't been able to break in as regularly as he would have liked. Is there a tricky situation coming up there?
No, those discussions are ongoing. That's part of normal list management. We talk to all our players, those are in contract, those are out of contract, and those discussions happen as normal part of business. Ultimately, a lot of those things we'll deal with at the end of the season. Once we've got a real clear view on the landscape, understanding of where we're sitting and the changes we may wish to make and where players are at. So that's just part of that process.
So you won't announce anything like other clubs have done in the coming weeks? The timing's pretty curious to cull your list before finals?
Well, that's, again, it's not for me to really comment on other clubs and how they manage their list. I think that's each individual circumstance for the player and for the club are always different. So, you know, that's for those clubs to deal with that. We'll deal with it as is appropriate for us based on our players, being mindful of, you know, the players and also the situation we're in with them, where we're at in the season.
How have you seen Thompson's form with some of the younger midfielders coming through and his sort of role in the future, I guess?
Yeah, look, he's been really solid, you know, for us in terms of his form. I mean, he played really well against Fremantle a couple of weeks ago. It's always interesting when people talk about Tomo. There's Tomo the midfielder, and then there's Tomo the 33-year-old midfielder, and people sort of get edgy about the fact that he's 33. So as long as he's able to perform, play his role, and he has been doing that, then he continues to hold his spot in the team.